Hi, sir. How are you doing?
Very well. How are you?
I'm very well.
Good to see you.
Thank you so much, sir. So, sir, we'll start from the very beginning. Let's start from your childhood.
Right.
Where were you born and how were you raised and your school? Something like that. Let's start.
Lots of them. Lots of them, actually.
Yeah.
So I was born in a town called Mirzapur in Uttar Pradesh.
Yeah.
I used to, my family is fond of calling me ki Vindhyavasini ji ka Ashirwad hai.
Oh, wow.
So Ma Vindhyavasini is the Shakti Peeth there.
Right.
So that is something where I was born. My dad, very quickly we moved out of there because he joined the services, and then it was a transferable job.
He was in the IIS.
He was in the IIS, yes.
Right.
He was in the IIS, UP cadre.
Okay.
And so wherever he went, obviously as a kid, you hopped around with him. So Lucknow, Pilibhit, then Muzaffarnagar, and then many other districts, right? So on and so forth. Started in Lucknow at St. Francis at that time. Before that, I went to school in Mirzapur.
Okay.
So this was a place called Robertsganj. That's where I actually started schooling. That was my first school. And then from there, obviously, then, Papa's training was complete in the IAS, and so he got posted. So Fatehpur was, in that way, my first formal school. Then Bijnor, he got posted as an SDM in one of the tehsils in Bijnor. So we went there. And then from there, I think it was Gorakhpur, then Muradabad, and then Lucknow. That was St. Francis. And then from Lucknow, we went to Pilibhit. He became DM Pilibhit, so I went there for a year. And then, from there, St. Joseph's Nainital. And finally, after that, I moved to DPSRK where I spent my 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. Okay. And that's the only school which gave me, a long, at least 4 or 5 years of stability. Otherwise, almost hopping schools every year or maximum 2 years.
Did that affect you mentally? Because we usually have...
Yeah, I know. I get asked that question very often.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it never affected me. We never thought about it in that perspective that there's a... when I say effect, like a negative effect, right? Yeah. So I never thought about it that way. Whenever we used to join in, we were so attuned to the idea that, in a year or two, we'll be, packing our bags again and then relocating somewhere. So it will be a new school, new friends, new people around. So it didn't affect me at all, to be honest with you. And in fact, I could argue on two sides. One is that, it gave me exposure to so many more places, so many more ideas, so many more people, so many more friends, so many more schools, so many teaching styles and everything, and local cultures within those cities and districts, that it probably enhanced whatever I was absorbing from my context at that particular point of time. So I think it worked to that extent. For me, in my favor. That's my take on that. I could be, I don't know what psychologists, trained psychologists would say on that perspective, but that's the way I found that to be. It gave me more confidence somewhere and a level of comfort in approaching a new person, interacting with them and making friends. Right. So I became very good because, and I think God has helped me through my career for that attribute. So that was one part. Second, I think we also didn't feel the pinch a lot because we were always in government offices' colonies.
So you always had friends.
So if you always had, if not the same friends, but the colony had its own ecosystem. So typically in every district, the colony where IAS officers are posted or get a house, the only person other than that would probably be another IAS officer or a PCS officer or maybe an IPS officer. There'll be very few of those houses, maybe 10, 12, 15 of them, but very close community. They'll have a club, they'll have everything, So it was, wherever you went, you played badminton in the, last district in the officers' court, in the officers' club. Here also you went and you had that access. Right. So I think that also created a sense of comfort. SSP is aapka beta, ye unka. So that, I think that's helped my cause at least. So I think it was a positive factor in what I became than a negative factor.
So making friends was no problem.
No problem.
And are you in touch with all of them?
No, see, that's the problem. That's the disadvantage, right?
Okay.
So yes, you reach out to people, you make friends, but you don't create those bonds.
Right.
Bonds are created by history.
Right.
Right. And when you don't have a long shared history with people,
Right.
they know those tests and trials. And so it's largely, a certain level of triviality comes into those relationships. So the bonding is not as deep and as strong as I would have liked to have. But, for example, my younger brother, he went to school from class 1 to 12. Right. So he has very different level of school friends.
Right.
I don't really have that level of school friends, but yes, some who continued to be, in touch. Also because of family context, their fathers were also in the services. So we always, Raj Bhavan mein koi program ho raha tha, we met there. Butler Pass Colony mein koi program tha, we met there. So that was something, that continued. So yes, I have a few friends from school time, this leg of the school, who still continue to be in touch, but not so many. But DPS Arkipuram, because I was a hosteler there. I was a hosteler at St. Joseph's as well. I was Dehradun as well. But in Nainital, these two were only single stretches, right? Single year stretches. But DPS Arkipuram was my longer stretch. And I was a hosteler there. Those relationships still, are rock solid. They're strong. And these are, friends who probably in 5 years, they won't look me up. Except for sending a birthday message, hi, kaisa hai, happy Diwali, which I will also respond, or I will send first and they will respond. But whenever, my election comes, for example, they will take leaves in their jobs. And they're all high corporate profile people, very, big shots in whatever jobs they are doing, millions of rupees, at least crores of rupees packages they're working on.
Wow.
But they'll take leave, they will come to my elections. They will sleep, rough it out in a room, 4 beds on the floor and that times. And they will go and canvass for me or unke friends or relatives or whatever. So, and then 5 years down, once the results are declared, they'll be like, bye-bye, now you take care, and we'll be back in 5 years' time. So I still have some of those friends and I treasure them a lot. I have some of those friends from my college time as well. Very close friend of mine, he literally had to close down his business when I was contesting for the first time. He closed his business for so many days. For
you?
For me, for my election.
Yeah.
And he came and he roughed it out and God willing we won and so on and so forth. So I have those friends, yeah. And I think those are the treasures of life.
And you said you were in hostel. Yeah. So how was the experience then?
Both sides. Every coin has two sides. So it was challenging. Challenges have an innate ability of refining you.
Right.
Of bringing out what's best in you, right? They polish you. So to that extent, it was fantastic. I loved the experience. I enjoyed it, made friends, made those bonds, and continued, played games, sports, extracurriculars. It becomes so much easier, right? Because you're physically there all the time. But obviously, you do miss your family. I missed home. I missed my dad, my mom, everybody. And I wouldn't say I missed food so much because we did get good food at DPS Arkipuram. But other than that, you miss being home, right? Especially when there's a festival, for example, and suddenly the school decides to have a sports day at that time. So you feel bad, you're unable to come. There's only 3 days holidays for, let's say, Eid, Diwali.
Right.
Then you feel bad on that time. But other than that, I think it was a good experience. I enjoyed it.
Nice. Nice. And since you were hopping schools so much, any favorite of them?
Oh, DPS Arkipuram. I'm sure you would have guessed it by now. It's so many mentions, so that's So DPS Arkipuram was a great school. I made good friends. Teachers were fantastic. DPS Arkipuram also gave you that, sense of achievement at that level. Because, to qualify for a DPS Arkipuram exam, you sit through with students from all across the country.
Oh, there's an
entrance exam, Okay. So students from Guwahati are appearing. There's somebody from Bengal appearing. There's somebody from, maybe not as far as Chennai, but even Bhopal and Madhya Pradesh and some belts of Maharashtra appearing for those exams.
Right.
And then suddenly, your name comes into the list and you're like, wow, okay, I've done something at least. Everybody gives you a pat on the back, shabash beta, bahut acha hua. So that's encouraging. So that gives you a sense of achievement. And then I think it's a great school. The scholarship is brilliant. The academics is very nice. The teachers are very good. The environment is very nice. And And being situated in Delhi, you get so much more exposure. So for example, our pistol shootings, I was a pistol shooting team captain at the Prasad Dr. Sani made me captain at that time. And the range was inaugurated by the visiting prince and princess of Japan. So, you have a big function, you're getting the minister of HRD, you're getting, a former prime minister or something. So you get exposure to that level, and it helped me a lot because I was many times involved in those activities, going, receiving, and reading out, presenting on the stage, and conducting the programs. It gave me that confidence that I wouldn't say they are like me, but I think I'm also like them. So the aura behind such huge names and personalities that you keep reading on TVs and newspapers as a kid, that sort of like cracks open. They're still there, but it's like, I think, I have met him. I know what he is. And maybe, one day I can also do that. And if not just for the political class, but sports persons, top academicians, researchers, professors, doctors. So you get that exposure being in Delhi. And that helped me a lot as well.
So any role model, any teacher that you loved or while you were growing up, any of like I have few of my favorite teachers from different phases of my life.
Sure.
For you, do you think?
Well, up to school level, it's difficult to put a name, to be honest, for a teacher. I think my biggest teacher at that level that I looked up to and who was an inspiration for me and still continues to be, he was always my dad. So that was somebody that I aspired to be and I looked up to always throughout my life, right? Other than that, the one person who had a significant, not a teacher, but who had a significant effect on what I've become today was Dr. D.R. Sani. So he was a hostel warden at that time. But his philosophy, his approach, his way of handling kids, his way of talking to you, the way he made you feel, it was very personal. It was very hands-on, right? So he taught me a philosophy at that time, which I still remember. He used to give us a formula in this class, 9th that I'm talking about, TPP, time, person, and place. He said, take care of 3 things in your life, wherever you are, whatever station, whatever your job. What time is it? Time doesn't mean, what the watch is telling you, but what is the context? Read the room, as we say, the phrase in English, right? Read the room, right? So what is the time it is? Which person you're talking to? What is that person? What is good about that person? What is, God forbid, he didn't say it in those words, but now when you reflect back, it probably meant what is bad in that, what to do, what not to do, right? Yeah. And what is the place? Are you sitting in a, corporate room? You're sitting in a lecture theater? You're sitting in a movie hall? You're sitting in a party? You're sitting at a friend's house? You're sitting in a drawing room? You're sitting in a bed? Where you're sitting. So if you modulate your behavior based on the TPP formula, that's something that will hold you in good stead. And it has worked for me. So I still remember that.
So I believe you've imbibed a lot of that.
Yes, absolutely.
In your today's professional...
in my life as such.
Okay.
Not just profession, in my life. Some things become deeply ingrained in you.
Yeah.
They only come back to you when you reflect back. When you raise that question, then you're like, okay, what do I think about? Yeah, okay, Dr. Sani, TPP, right? Yeah. So he was a fantastic guy. He was a guy who wouldn't give a damn to anybody on earth. You could be anybody, literally anybody. You could be, not literally the prime minister of this country, but you could be almost anybody. And he would be like, I don't care.
Right.
And for hostlers, if you were a hostler, he would maybe, he would ridicule you. I wouldn't say he would hit you, but less than that, he would try and control and discipline you, right? More as a father, more as an elder brother, more as a guardian figure.
Right.
But anybody other than himself, if he raised a finger on a hostler, if he raised even as bit much as an eyebrow against a hostler, then Sani was number 1 enemy. So everybody felt that, we have a father figure, even in the hostel, and whatever went wrong, you didn't get marks, you were absent, your teacher, you were caught bunking, you were whatever. In school, you got into fight, you got into anything. You could just go behind Dr. Sani. He would ridicule you. क्यों किया तूने? गलत किया, नहीं करना चाहिए था, ये है, वो है, ऐसा है, वैसा है. But he would never complain it to anybody. And he would stand like a rock to support you at that point of time. He was like, मेरा hostel का बच्चा इसके खिलाफ कुछ नहीं.
तो आपके भी स्कूल में उस वक्त डे स्कॉलर वर्सेस हॉस्टलर था?
उतना नहीं था. It wasn't really like a pitched battle or something, but that tension continues, because
Subtle tension.
it's a subtle tension. At Deep Prasad, I think it was rather very well controlled. It wasn't ki ladaiyan ho rahi hain or something like that. It was never that. But you know what happens when in a class of 50 there are 5 hostelers and 45 day scholars? Then those 5 stick around day in and day out.
Right.
So there's a different type of bonding amongst those 5. So, and those 5, when any 5 people get together versus one in any context, the behavioral changes a little bit. It's like I wouldn't say mob mentality or a mob behavior because mobs are much larger, but still you start on that pendulum, on that continuum, you start moving one step ahead on that side that, look, I have strength in numbers, right? Yeah. So that translated into a little bit of tensions, but I don't think it ever got ugly. So that was a good thing.
Any sport activity or any hobby that hooked on to you while you were growing up?
Well, I used to play every sport.
Okay.
So at St. Joseph's Nainital, it was compulsory to play every sport. You had to play tennis, you had to play squash, you had to play badminton, you had to play cricket, you had to play football, you had to play hockey, you had to run, you had to jump, you had to, I don't know what else, right? So you had to do, everything was compulsory, right? It was done by Irish brothers. So we only had Irish brothers at that time. So it was done by Irish brothers. Irish brothers had their own way of show me, whether you have a handkerchief in your pocket at the moment or not, whether your nails are cut or not, how long is your, socks, are they rolled down or are they rolled up? To that extent, the discipline was enforced there, right? Obviously, it teaches you a lot. You feel really bad at that time. But it teaches you a lot for a lifetime. The hair has to be combed like this. The tie has to be, tied up like this. So it was very good in that sense. So I played almost every game and continued till school, college, all the levels. But I was a pistol shooter at a professional level. So I won the round shot of India title. I played nationals. I won multiple state level gold medals and silvers and so on and so forth. We played nationals, qualified for to represent India at an international event. It's a typical score that you get, and then you're qualified to do that. Today also it's called the round shot of India. That system still continues as of date. My my elder son is doing that today. I was a pistol shooter. He does rifle. So that's something which I did professionally and to a high standard. That helped me in my admissions in abroad, because you also had a national level sports certificate. But that was dear to me. I dropped it, to be honest, just before class 12 boards. Okay. Because education was something really, really important. And, in this country or maybe around the world, even today, your marks are asked. That's the first thing that everybody wants to know. Because nobody has a Nobel in class 12, right? So the only way you get selected for an exam, and those were the days when marks could get you to St. Stephen's or to an Oxford or a Cambridge versus being a nobody. So 12th was very, very important. My dad, being a hardcore academician himself, he topped class 10th, 12th, Roorkee, and then into the IAS. So he was also very particular that, look, we need marks. So that was something which I dropped at that point of time, and I think maybe I should have carried on with it, and but it just dropped at that point of time.
So if given today a chance, would you like to go back to it?
Well, today I had a chance, and did I go back to it? No. Okay. To be honest, no. So yeah, I think that phase just got over as a fancy or a fascination for me. So yeah, I passed that stage. But I picked up other things on the way. I picked up love for literature. I picked up love for poetry. I picked up love for writing, for painting. So lots of things. So which is what I still continue to do.
So you weren't a very naughty child when you...
No.
You were very obedient.
Yeah. I was. I mean, I would like to think of me in that way. I mean, you'd have to probably ask my mom and dad that question. Yeah. But yeah, I think I was more like an obedient child. Yeah. Because even today, I think, and I'm not just think, I believe firmly in this, that if your parents are telling you something, on a subject that they're qualified to tell you something, right? If he's telling you about quantum physics and he's not even read physics in class 10, that's probably an error. But if they're telling you, they're the persons who have your best interest in the core of their heart. They might not know sufficiently enough about what they're telling you, but there's no doubt that nobody on earth thinks better for you than your parents.
I agree. Yeah.
So as a kid, yeah. So that maybe as a kid or maybe later as well for me. I mean, for myself, I would say your personal family, your wife, your brother, your sister, yes, included. But at that point of time, only your parents, right? And more so in our family figures, your father or your mother, right? And if you believe and if you go by what they are saying and what they're telling you to do, most of the times in life, you will not make a mistake. Most of the times.
Right.
So for example, my dad always told me कि सरकारी गाड़ी कभी मत चलाना.
Achha. Why?
Very particular. He was like, "Beta, you drive a sarkari gaadi, and God forbid, something happens. You even just little bit touch a cycle wala or somebody, it's gonna be huge crisis for you. It's gonna be huge crisis for me.
Achha.
So don't ever. So one thing which was very all my, again I would not name anybody. My friends who were from the bureaucratic background, they were used to drive sarkari gypsies. उस समय नहीं आई थी. For the first time, gypsies were introduced when we were at that age and stage. When we started to drive, and but they used to drive. I never ever touched a sarkari gaadi. He's like, ये काम मत करना. You want a vehicle? When I grew up of the age, he got my first license made. मैंने कहा पहले बनवा दीजिए. He said, no, when you're 18 only then you will get a license. When I became of 18 and I got a license, then he bought me a car.
Okay.
He said,
car?
Maruti 800. So that was the dream car at that time, everybody, that was what I wanted. He bought me a car and he taught me himself. He said, I will teach you in the jungle. So,
And what color was it?
oh, it was like a sand gold color.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you were driving in the jungle.
Yeah. So he started teaching me in the jungles where there was absolutely, you could hit the car or to a tree, but otherwise you couldn't do anything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I drove maybe like hundreds of kilometers in the jungle before I was allowed to drive on the road. But that was one thing which, my dad, so even today, in whatever position I am, I keep telling my drivers and my staff and my security, don't take a wrong U-turn. If there's a U-turn, take the long turn, but don't take a wrong turn, right? Don't drive against the traffic. Right. I keep, it's something, he taught me, always be on the right side of the law. That's something which I keep repeating to my children as well. And I followed that, don't mess up with law. Now when as a legislator, as a, somebody who's responsible to create laws, I feel we can make better laws. There are laws where there are problems, there are aberrations. You can always improve the legislative process as with any other process, right? But whatever is the law of the land, follow that law of the land. So these things almost have become like a value system for me.
Right.
So that's something which I would, try to inculcate, and I try to give it on to my children as well.
So the thing that you mentioned, that in India, especially, marks are given a lot of focus, right?
Yep.
Everything is marks.
Yeah.
Do you think that this is like it's overdone? Marks, or I think there is life beyond marks as well.
Yeah.
While where I'm coming from is that हम लोग चाहे जितना भी पढ़ ले स्कूल में, at the end of the day when we come to the real world, when we start working, that subjects, unless you're a scientist or something like that, or something like you've researched in a particular subject, right? Other than that, like corporate ho gaya, aapke jaise political life mein aa gaye, how much do you think those subjects may play a role? How marks do that? Do you think it plays that much role?
Well, there are three questions in what you said just now. The first question is a question of are we more than what our marks are? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everybody, that we can talk about is much more a sum total of attributes, personality, niceties, goodness of their heart, of their behavior, attitudes, perceptions, struggles, strengths, right? Much more than what is reflected in their marks, right? So, yes, absolutely. To that extent, marks are not the best way of selecting whatever is required, right? Whatever you're choosing for, it's definitely not the best way, right? The second question is, then what is the best way?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is there a better way? Right? So that's a systemic level choice question. If you are not looking at marks and you're looking at a particular person in their totality, in their holistic perspective, then you will never miss a Vivekanand, for example. Yeah. You have a Vivekanand, you will spot him or her, and you will bring them to the fold and say, look, you know what, we don't care about your academics, you're just too good. We want you here and you play along and you do well, right? We'll give you that opportunity. But the problem what happens is at a systemic level, at a structural level, we are limited by our human capacity and capability to process so many number of applications. Right? So, is it the best way? No. But to my mind, I love that saying where it goes that never make the best the enemy of better.
Okay.
Right? Yes, it is not the best way. Is democracy the best way that we run it today? Maybe, maybe not. Right? The democracy in India, for example, suppose anybody, including the present government or our government or whatever previous government, they get created at a vote share of, let's say, 30%, 40%, 35%, 42%, whatever, less than 50%. If the same voting percentages were happening in the United States, none of us would ever get elected.
Yeah.
Right? So is the United States democracy flawed or our democracy flawed? Or the British system flawed, or the Japanese system, or the Taiwanese system, or multiple other systems where you have ranking models, or the Swiss Canton system, right? There is no best way to my mind, right? Yeah, what we should do, having said that, right? So what I'm saying is that the marks are the closest approximation that people have created to a system that is workable. Is it the best system? No, it is not. Would it be better to look at everybody and then select? Yes. But suppose 300,000 people are applying for CAT or for GMAT or for UPSC for the IAS exam. Is it humanly possible to talk to those 300,000 people by a qualified person who can make a judgment as well? It's not randomly people who are required to take that interview, right? That interviewer must also be good enough to take an interviewer, right? He should not be lower than the interviewee.
Right.
So in that case, we are limited by that capacity and supply of those people. Thus, it's a closest approximation.
Right.
That to my mind.
Right.
The third question that you said is, can there be a better way? I think that was implied in your question.
Yeah.
Yes, there can be a better way. Now, that better way, I think, is beautifully implemented by American universities, right? Where there's obviously a system of applying. You can, you get your GMAT, you get your AP scores, you get your SATs, you get your TOEFL, you get your AP exams, you get your boards marks, you get a 4-year profile review, your social media scan, your, and then you apply, and then, there's a cutoff list there. They would talk to somebody, they will interview you, and then maybe offer you an admission, right? Also, they have a clause that if you have any exceptional achievements, suppose you're exceptionally brilliant at drama, you play volleyball brilliantly well, and your marks in the class 12th were only 45%, only because you were representing India, or you're representing Uttar Pradesh, or you're representing something, they have that criteria as well, and they look at that as well. And I don't know the numbers because nobody tells you that, but approximately I think they have a broad benchmark that 90% are coming through the academic stream, 10% of admissions. Broadly speaking, I cannot, if you ask me to quote somebody, I would not quote anybody, right? But that's the way they look out and reach out for people. So there are sports tracks admissions, there are culture tracks admissions. You're a top singer, you could get admitted. You could be a top theatrical personality, you could get admitted. And so those achievements also get counted, which is not possible in India, for example. So example, if you were a top piano player and you played at the world stage, can you qualify for the IITs or the IIH? No. Maybe IITs are still technical. Maybe it's still not prudent to take it there. We can have that debate. There could be, I could argue on both sides if you tell me just by tweaking the assumptions of what I am arguing. But other than that, if you look at what an IIM system, for example, could that guy who's played piano at an international level by the age of 20, let's say, would that be a good person to get into management education and then go and run the music industry? Absolutely. Do we have that at the moment? Probably not, right? So obviously, everybody's sensitive to that idea. For example, when we were I was teaching at IIM Ahmedabad, we were sensitive to that idea that are we missing a Vivekanand here? Are we missing an Einstein there? Are we missing somebody who didn't bother to go to school? They're just beyond school. They're just brilliant enough. They were geniuses. Are we missing those people? And can we, so we included lots of, caveats and marks here, 2 marks for this, 3 marks for this, 4 marks for this. Also, gender equality was a big issue at IIM Ahmedabad at a certain point of time. So we made, plans according to how we could get more women there, how we could get more historians there, how we could get more chartered accountants there, how we could get more people from humanities perspective. But ultimately, if you still draw a normal distribution curve, it's still very, very skewed to a particular side. right? So yeah, we do not do the best job possible, but we're all trying to do a better job than what it is doing. So to that extent, it's the closest approximation. It's not the best method.
आपके हिसाब से ऐसा क्या इन योर पर्सपेक्टिव क्या ऐसा चेंज हमें लाना चाहिए एजुकेशन सिस्टम में नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट टेक्निकलिटी IIT में तो यू नीड टेक्निकल पीपल
Yeah.
एंड बट अदर देन दैट ऑन अ ब्रॉडर लेवल व्हाट डू यू थिंक जो स्कूल में बच्चे पढ़ रहे हैं और एक कॉलेज लेवल पे जा रहे हैं लाइक वेरी रिसेंट
Right.
इनके लिए आपको क्या लगता है एजुकेशन सिस्टम में व्हाट न्यू कैन बी डन how can we break a certain cycle of
Right.
toxicity which is in education system if I'm using the right word.
So, well, we are entitled to our word, so that's okay. I'm sure you're coming from a particular perspective, not the whole perspective. That's where the question is coming from,
I
right?
respect.
Yeah.
I have also studied in the same system, so I respect that.
And look what it's done for you. It's done brilliantly well.
Yes,
It's done brilliantly well.
100%. But sometimes, not everybody is not same.
Yeah.
Everybody comes.
Nobody is same.
Yeah.
Nobody is same. Our 5 fingers are not.
Yeah, like calibers are different.
Absolutely.
I might not be doing well in school, but yes, maybe later on in my life, I'm doing pretty well. Some people have done brilliantly well in school, but today they are just at a certain package, But what is it that we can get the tweak in schooling, basically? जो हम लोग ला सकते changes where we can get more bright minds. एक advice या आप दे सकते हैं कि somebody who's just started their studying, what would be their एक advice उनके लिए आप क्या देना चाहेंगे?
2-3 responses to that question that come to my mind. One is, you see, it's not necessary to reinvent the wheel. Whatever wheel is there, it's functioning sufficiently well, right? For a large number of people from where it is working well. If I chose to open a school and hire unqualified teachers, then I'm cheating at a certain level, right? If I run a college where teachers don't come to college, students don't come to college, and still they're passing out with degrees and high mark, that's a systemic fraud and problem of the system that we need to correct, right? That's not a problem with the education. We might argue that's a problem with the education system, right? Or the perverse incentives in the system, right? That's not a problem of the. So many times when we say problem of education, we're talking about. So I have this discussion with a lot of corporates who tell me, sir, we don't really get people who are qualified enough for a job. We have jobs, and students tell me that we don't have jobs. We are qualified enough, right? So where is that problem coming from? We implemented for the first time under Akhileshji's leadership as Chief Minister the Skill Development Mission in Uttar Pradesh. This was before the Skill Development Mission was created in India, and I was the first minister for skill development in Uttar Pradesh. That's a question that we spent a lot of hours, discussing, debating with present IS officers, former IS officers, top corporate leaders, and so on and so forth, right? And so there are two problems. One is it is not necessarily the system and structure of education, the way it is designed, which is getting implemented very well in certain schools, which is reflected probably in your education or my education, because we had access to those schools, we had access to those teachers, we had access to those systems, right? That set of discipline that gets enforced and implemented. You could be anybody, you could be anybody's daughter or son, I don't give a damn. This is what you have to do. This is school, nobody comes above the school, right? That's the fear we had of our teachers or our principal in schools, right? So the problem was with the implementation part. I think a great problem today in our education system is with the implementation part.
Yes.
Teachers are not going to school, they're not qualified enough, they're not competent enough, their heart is not there, their mind is not there, they're not being held accountable, they're not held accountable because they don't feel the accountability, because they're not respected for what they're doing, because in the heart of their hearts also probably they feel that, am I really competent to be doing what I'm doing? Right. So you can go especially in our rural hinterland and setting, you ask a mathematics teacher, you ask an English teacher. I'm sure you've heard that classic joke about, somebody goes to, a headmaster goes to, school inspector goes to school, and he picks up a student of class 6 and writes CULTURE on the blackboard and asks the student, "Padho isko kya likha hai?" He says, "Sir, culture." She was like, he's called the English teacher. He's like, "What are you teaching this guy? It's culture. Your kid is telling culture." He says, "Sir, it is very bad. I've taught him it is culture. I've taught him it is not culture, it is culture." He said, "But what are you guys doing?" He said, "No, sir, I'm sorry. I'll take care of this." He walks out, he goes to the principal's office. He said, what are you students doing? They are spoiling the future of all the students.
Right.
Right? And then the principal comes in and the principal says, sir, it is not the problem of anybody. It is, you're talking about not future, it is future. The culture and the future are the same. But the problem is with the structure of the education system.
Right.
That's the problem.
So very well said on that.
That's the problem. So implementation is where we need to polish our boots, hit the ground running. And that will come only when policy implementation, policy design, legislation, and the rewards and incentives are tied to that. When you teach at IIM Ahmedabad, you teach at Cambridge or Harvard or LSE, LB, I can take hundreds of names there, right? Well, not hundreds, but at least a couple there. In that category, you feel a sense of pride in what you've done, what you achieved, what you are, what the society respects you for. You're going to get to a certain level in our system. It's not the same level of respect. Above everything else, people want respect. So that's something that we need to set it right. And then structures and systems have to be implemented. If you're supposed to go to school and teach for 240 days a year, you very well have to do that. There can be no exceptions about that. You start doing that and you start feeling the difference in the output that we create. That's one part, right? The second part is definitely we can always do better. What would I change? Well, change is a very slow process. And changing a society is even slower. It happens, societal changes never happen, I would say, before a generational shift. So at least 20, 25 years in a major societal change to take roots and then get implemented and then get carried forward, right? What would I change? I would probably give this opportunity to 5% to start with maybe, or 10%, whatever the people think about. It's not for me to decide today. If it comes for me to decide, I will take that decision and things are clear in my mind what I will do, what I will not do. But today I'm just proposing that maybe you could allow people to apply for any job and say, just justify that you're fit for the job. So maybe Lucknow University or DU or St. Stephen's or an IIT or an IIM Ahmedabad or whatever. I'm Bangalore, I'm Lucknow, whatever, right? An ISB comes and says that, look, okay, you've not done your GMAT, you've not done well in your graduation, doesn't matter. I will still look at you. If you can prove a certain level of proficiency, that demands my time to come and sit with you and make sure that whether you are at the same level of what I'm otherwise injecting into the class or maybe even better at that level. Or maybe if you're at a slightly lower level in technical skills, suppose you've never read calculus, right? Calculus is something I can teach you in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Or 3 weeks. You come to me, you do a foundation, everybody's joining on the 1st of July, you come on the 1st of June. 1 month, I'm going to teach you calculus, I'm going to teach you statistics, I'm going to teach you regression modeling, I'm going to teach you stochastic, and that's it. By the time everybody comes in, you're at the same level technically, and you're already very good otherwise. You now at that same level, come and fly.
Right.
Why not? So if a politician from no background, no standardized education system in all the streams, nobody can be trained in all streams, right? Can become a prime minister, a chief minister and run the entire show, an economy, like India's, for example, or for Uttar Pradesh or Maharashtra or Tamil Nadu, whatever, or California for that matter, then, I'm sure if we give the right opportunity and the right supporting infrastructure.
Right.
Why those people are, we say कि वो कर लेते हैं, उन्होंने पढ़ा नहीं. They're not the only ones who do it, right? Once they enter those chairs, those positions, for example, the President of the United States, right? He might not be the most competent person to design or derive or to comment or to decide on the tariff structures. But he's come with a political philosophy. He's come with a political campaign which people have voted for in a democracy. So to that extent, it's justified in double quotes. We can discuss and debate whether that's true or wrong,
Sure.
Whether that's right with democracy or not, whether the will of the people is really the will of the people, whether the people really understand what they will, right? That's a classic debate in political science, political economy, and democracy studies. We can do that as well. But the point is, for that person, he has a huge support infrastructure. If he wants to decide on imposing tariffs on a particular country, for God forbid, India or whatever, he can dial up the top economist at the Fed or the top economist at the IMF or the top economist at Yale or Brown or Harvard or Cambridge and say, what do you think this is going to be? And not just one person, he can dial 5 people who have put their life into studying tariffs and they can tell him and advise, sir, this is what you need to do. And then he can take an informed decision on the basis of the will of the people, right? So when we say that people suddenly that's a classic complaint we hear about IAS officers, right? What does he know about PWD? He's become Principal Secretary PWD today, tomorrow becomes Principal Secretary. What does he know about police? But still the system has been run, and above him is again a generalist chief minister.
Wow.
Who might be as equipped or as qualified or not, right? But he's the final arbiter. He's the final person who takes a call in democratic structure. And for want of any other structure across the world, at least in the last 100 years, the world has converged towards democratic models. So this model, again, is it the best? Is it like the God sent? Maybe not, right? But it is better than the rest.
I agree.
Right? Yeah. So there is supporting infrastructures. Can we provide the same supporting structure and an ecosystem to those people and girls and boys that we pick up on those 10%, work extra hard as an institution and make sure that they also get an opportunity to fly and see if that makes a difference. Maybe 25 years down the line, we do a longitudinal study and it says it doesn't make a difference because people who were there, they are able to pick up new skills.
Right.
You see, one thing we forget is, yes, they are entering on the basis of marks, yes, but that's only the entry ticket. The pass-out ticket is very different from that entry ticket.
Yeah.
The pass-out ticket is they've acquired the skills that were taught either on that program at Oxford or Cambridge or MIT or whatever, right? Once they're competent on those skills and they pass that exam, whether it's a written exam or it's an interview, it's a presentation, it's a dissertation, it's a thesis, it's a consulting project, whatever it is. Once they pass out those doors and they count, then only they get that degree. So people, the best part about human beings is our ability to learn. You know, when I went to my job interview at IIM Ahmedabad, my director was Bakul Dolakia, right? I love that man, right? So he looked at my CV, and you know, my CV has all good names from across the world that you can look at, that you can have. Right?
Sorry to cut you. Were you working also somewhere before IIM Ahmedabad? Like
no, that was immediately after my PhD. I did work before that, but after my PhD, that was my, in India, that was my first application.
Right.
So IIM Ahmedabad has a very typical recruitment system. You know, you meet 30 people give responses, then you make a presentation, then those people give responses, and then finally the director is nobody who decides. It's the faculty recruitment committee that decides, right? It's very separate. The director of IIM Ahmedabad cannot get somebody recruited even if he wanted to, right? That's the beauty of the system, right? Fantastic system. Love that institution for that, for those systems and processes.
And sir, isme kitne attempts allowed rehte hain to get into IIM, or you can give as many as you want. You got through like first attempt?
No, this was for teaching job.
Oh, okay.
Not for studying there.
Okay.
Yeah, for studying I did at Cambridge, MIT, Harvard. So my studies were different. But yeah, I was because I wanted to come back to India. So in India, if you want to teach management, I still think IIM Ahmedabad is the place where you want to go to, right? So I applied there, and my Bakul was my director, and he said, Abhishek, he looked at my CV, my thesis, and I'd prepared very well, right? I was going to meet the director who was supposed to sign on my recruitment offer. Yeah. And I knew my thesis, I knew my questions everywhere. And he looked at it and said, you know what? I don't think I know as much about your subject as you do. You've just completed a PhD, you're up to the mark, you're best from the best institutions in the world. I don't think I can know your subject, but you tell me, why should I hire you? Tell me something about yourself that you have and which you'll contribute to IIM Ahmedabad. And that was a question I didn't expect, to be honest. I expected questions on methodology, why this method, why not that analysis, why regression equation is this and where is this variable, but obviously he didn't ask any of that. And I thought back, and immediately the thing that came to mind, I said, one thing that I've learned is the art of learning. You give me a topic, you give me a question, you give me a skill, you give me a challenge, I will be able to learn around it and become competent on that topic in probably the shortest span of time that somebody can have for that level of competency.
And would that be like
whatever you tell me to start playing sitar tomorrow? I'm not saying I'm not going to become the maestro.
Yeah.
But maybe I've become very, very good at even a live performance. So I wouldn't do what somebody's achieved in a lifetime, but anything somebody achieves in 5 years, I'll do that in a year's time. That's something which I've learned. So the skill of learning is very, very crucial. That's what we don't really take into consideration when we look at people's journeys and trajectories. You look at anybody, he might have been a nobody when he started. But he learned the tricks of the rope and the ropes of the trade, of the job, what he was doing while he was doing it. And he got really good at doing that and became very, very good at doing that. And that's why he is where he is. Obviously, circumstances conspire for you or against you. That's true. And is there a level of uncertainty? Is there a level of luck? Is there a level of unpredictability? Absolutely. Right? So once I was visiting a country, and the very next day I left that country, it was struck by a huge earthquake. Huge. Was I lucky to get out in time and I wasn't there the next day? Absolutely. Did I know the earthquake was striking? No. So yes, there's a level of uncertainty and unpredictability in the course of life, but you prepare for a certain level, and on an average, it works out.
So you always wanted to get into teaching because like your role model was your father. कभी IS या IPS ऐसा बनने का नहीं मन किया आपका?
When I was a kid, anybody who asked me what you wanted to become, I said President of India.
Nice.
When I grew up a little bit, if somebody asked me what you wanted to become, I said Chief of Army Staff. I just,
yeah.
That. Then a few years later, I wanted to become the Chief of Air Staff. Army also had done away by that time. And flying is what I want to do.
Right.
So what you want to become over a lifetime at multiple stages of life is a different story. And I think that's true for every kid that has grown up, right? In a surrounding society system and an ecosystem where he thinks I can aspire and be whatever I want to be.
Right.
But yes, reaching out to people, connecting with people, talking to people was something that I've always enjoyed. And I just think I'm my best when I'm doing that, right? I just love that. I think God has blessed me, and with my learning, with my reading every day, a certain level of articulation that I'm good at doing that. So I like jobs which provide me those opportunities, right? So my first love in my professional role is academics and consulting. Similar roles, similar jobs require research, require underground body of knowledge, require a new initiative, require a new question, require research through a question, apply yourself, challenge yourself, combine a couple of methodologies, look at what people have done. Somebody's done something in some industry, somebody's done something. You bring it all together and see how it can inform the question or the challenge that you're facing today, or the organization that you're consulting for is facing today, right? So that's something which is very close to my heart. Corollary to that is teaching. Corollary to that is training. So these three things are something which I absolutely loved. I love it today. You give me an opportunity, I do it every single time. Even today, I love going back, teaching wherever I get an invitation. I regularly go back to IIM Ahmedabad because, I have friends there. That's an institution I love. I enjoy that intellectual vibrancy. I love the challenges that students throw at you without really knowing who you are. They just think he's another professor, and they start throwing questions at you. And it's fantastic because every time you have to teach the same case. So, for example, I've been teaching Apple as a case since 2006. Every time I have to teach that case, if 6 months have passed in between, I have to prepare for at least 2 days before I teach that case again. Right. Because you have to update what Apple has done in the lab. Because the student there who was asking a question might have read something yesterday. And I don't want to be in a situation where he asks or she asks me a question in class and I was like, man, where did you read this? He said, yesterday. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't read it yesterday. So I'm prepared to the hilt. I'm, one night before my whatever performance is it, talking, teaching, training, consulting, whatever. I'm up by at least till 2:30 a.m. and preparing for that. I like to be very well prepared for whatever I go. That's just a habit that I've inculcated. And yeah, to answer that question succinctly, yes, I love academics. I love teaching. I love talking. I love training. Consulting, I still do that. That's what still runs my household. And I don't do any business. There's nothing else that I do, but I just enjoy doing that. Yeah.
Did you have this plan jotted out कि मैं ये कर लूँगा, फिर teaching करूँगा, फिर मैं politics join करूँगा?
Right. No. Oh. You see, when you look back at life, you know what trajectory you are taking.
Okay.
Right? To say, it's like saying to you, I want to go from here to New York City, or I want to go to Boston, I want to go to Cambridge. You know that. But whether you're gonna go through Delhi and then take a flight to London and then take a bus to Cambridge bus station and then take a taxi there, or whether you're gonna fly from Lucknow to Dubai and then take a connecting flight to Stansted and then take a train to Cambridge, or whatever, right? So to a certain extent, life is planned. And to a certain extent, life happens, right? So for me, I think it's a combination of both. And I think happens for almost everybody that I know of. Has it been along planned? And did I plan to be here? Absolutely. Did I want to be here? Yes, absolutely. Do I enjoy doing what I do? Absolutely. Right? These things don't come to you by accident, right? So yes, it all fits a plan. It all fits a journey. It all fits a trajectory. It all fits a dimension that you want to travel on, right? Can every bit be planned? No.
So,
To that extent, life happens.
so did you used to have like a vision board in your room? Or no, nothing like that sort?
Well. Not a vision board in my room, to be honest, but I have very clear-cut choices. For example, and my wife is always says that if you go shopping with me, we can get done in like 3 minutes.
Excellent.
I need this shirt, I need this pant, I need this watch, I need this glasses, and that's it, right? I don't like otherwise spending time. My wife is different; she enjoys it, and I love giving her company. That's something which I absolutely enjoy, right? But I'm clear with my choices. And whenever life throws a dilemma at you, and that's I think a life skill, whenever life throws you questions that you are uncomfortable about, I've always chosen what I think is the morally right thing to do. It might be hurtful at that time. It might be painful at that time. Most often, almost always, it never gives you immediate results. But I think in the long run, it all works out. My dad was in the IAS and he used to say this, that overall, across 35 years of IAS service, सबकी postings मिला जुला करके बराबर हो जाती है. Almost everybody will get a very, very swanky, nice, high-profile, aspirational posting, and almost everybody will get some bad postings.
Right.
When you look at a career of 35 years, 36 years, 32 years, whatever is there, you look back and you say, yeah, I think I've had my moments of satisfaction, my moments where I've made a difference, where I've contributed to society, where I've contributed to what I was, probably born and designed to do. And there were moments when, I could have done better or maybe things didn't work out for me. So same, I think, in my life and in my career as well, in politics as well. Overall, I think it works out and plays out for everybody if you're on the right track long enough and you're willing to pay the price to be on the right track.
Do you believe in manifestation? It's the most overused word, but yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah? Are you spiritual?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Very, very, very deeply, very strongly. Very spiritual.
क्या करते हैं आप अपने daily routine में? Do you have any meditation? Or any yoga?
Yoga, my dad would love that I start doing, but I'm really not very good at that. Yeah, let me hide some of it. But other than that, meditation, absolutely yes.
Yeah.
Meditation, writing for me is meditation to some extent. Reading for me is meditation to some extent. Poetry for me is meditation. Part of meditation it's my road to spiritual calmness and quietness. Painting for me is my road to spiritual quietness. Yeah, so I have those moments, and then obviously praying to God. So I pray regularly. I don't, normally go to many places which are on the most crowded days, but I love going to, to a tirth or to a temple or anywhere else. अगर मुझे आप कह दो कि कोई एक मंदिर हो जहां आज 1 लाख की भीड़ होगी, वहां चले जाओ आज, and कल there will only be like 300 people, which is true for most of the temples in India. People just converge at a particular date and the next day they're totally empty. So I would rather go the next day, just sit quietly and just close your eyes and be there for 10 minutes, 15 minutes and do nothing. And just get up, bow in obeisance and then walk out.
ऐसी कोई spiritual जगह या प्रैक्टिस या जर्नी आपकी जो आप पे बहुत ज़्यादा डीपली इम्पैक्ट किया हो किसी?
I don't know whether it's me or if it's everybody. When I go to these spiritual seats in what Hinduism talks about, right? जो स्थल है हमारे, जो स्थल है हमारे, I feel a very different level of connection. As I'm talking to you, you can see I get goosebumps here.
Right.
I feel my whole body, and even I'm feeling at this as a talk because I can relate,
I
right?
can see it in your eyes.
I feel that I'm getting an electric current passing through God coming to me. I feel that energy, literally I feel that energy. I feel that electric current.
Yeah.
Something happens when I go there. And I felt that at so many places I cannot tell you. I feel that at Vishwanath Ji. I can feel that. I have,
Kashi Vishwanath.
Yeah, Kashi Vishwanath Ji. Tirupati Ji was like, I can still close my eyes and I just see him. In the everything is dark. There's just light on his face of a Deepak and he's there. I just feel that he's standing in front of me. And not just when I was there, I can still feel it today.
Wow.
I go to Vaishno Devi, I feel power. I go to Adinath Ji, I feel charged. I feel energy. I go to Shani temple, I go to Baba, Sai Baba. I just feel that. And for me, it's, even if I go to St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican City, I can just be there and sit quietly and do nothing.
Right.
A Maitre Mandir in Pondicherry, one of my most favorite places. In fact, the Baha'i temple, Lotus temple in Delhi.
Right.
If I'm alone in Delhi, I'm not with kids or family, nothing to do, and I'm close to the area, I'll just go there, sit. The quietness. I think the biggest thing people are missing in their lives today, what I aspire for most deeply, is quietness. And you don't have to do anything. If you ask me the way to be spiritual, just become quiet. Leave away everything. Just sit quietly. Just focus on whatever you want to focus on. A name, a mantra, a picture, image, breath, whatever on earth that you can think of or beyond, right? And it will keep you in a better place mentally.
Do you follow any of these religious gurus?
No.
No?
I think I'm just my own guru. Yeah. It comes from deep within. And I have respect for that. It's not to say at all otherwise. I have respect for what they've given their life to, spreading the message of a higher realm of spirituality, importance of God. And people say all sorts of things. I said, if for nothing else, their values that they're sensitizing people to important issues, which can help people connect with a higher power, higher energy, higher God, whatever name you want to give it, right? So I think that's a good enough reason to respect them. They're doing that job in the society, right?
Right.
Everybody has his pluses and minuses, goods and bads. Let's not go there. The job that he's doing is worthy for society. Let's respect it for that. But I don't follow personally anybody.
Yeah. And I
was extremely fond of reading. Again, I didn't follow him at all, but I was extremely fond of reading Osho.
Okay.
I still read Osho. I listen to him as well, but not for anything else, but just his breadth and depth of knowledge. I mean, he was fantastic in the art of logic. And one thing that I've tried to learn consciously from him, and I can give him that credit, I've been reading Osho since probably my dad introduced me to him when I was in class 6th or 7th, right? That was the stage when I was introduced to that. And his idea of connecting the dots from multiple sources, that interoperability, that nimbleness and flexible, the plasticity of the brain that comes when you do that, I think that's fantastic. And that's a skill that I've consciously tried to learn from him. But other than that, nobody.
And are you and your wife equally into spiritual practices or?
Spirituality is something which is deeply personal.
I agree, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So I have my own ways. She has her own ways. She respects for what I do. I respect for what she does. Are we both spiritual? Yes.
Yeah.
Are we both inclined to visiting these holy shrines and places? Yes. But are we exactly the same in our processes and in the journeys that we want to undertake? I would say largely yes, but not always.
And are your kids, I mean, I'm sure...
We've tried to introduce them to meditation, the art of meditation between me, my dad. We've tried to introduce to them. I tell them that, look, there are 3 things which are important to life. One is your fitness. The second is your academics or the ability or the capability of what you're doing. Yeah. And third is your mental strength. The mental strength will come from meditation. The physical fitness will come from running and jogging and working out. And the rest will come from your academics and your job, whatever that is. These 3 things make up all our time and all our lives, I think. So yeah, we've tried to introduce them to that. Sometimes they're regular, sometimes they become irregular, but then they're kids, Yeah. So I'm sure as they realize, it is something, see, the beauty of this, once you introduce somebody to this, the beauty of this is it grows on you. You realize that you're benefiting from that. Right. You're becoming better through that. You're able to control your emotions, your expressions, your anger because of that. Right? And when you realize it's working for you, you reach a happy space in that when you're doing that, right? Yeah. So it is self-attractive, it is self-reinforcing in that way.
Do you consider your political calling a spiritual indication?
Absolutely.
Or, yeah?
Deeply spiritual. Yeah. Deeply spiritual.
Like, I think, was it something like that, ki aap ek din padha rahe the, and then maybe you were meditating and they're like, now is the time to join politics?
Well, there comes a time when you have to say yes or no. Right? And most of the times that decisions, significantly disruptive decisions, this was a significantly disruptive decision that we made as a couple, as a family, between me and my wife. We had a son, he was born on IIM Ahmedabad campus. We had a lovely life. We were both into teaching, research, strategy, consulting, corporate training, and so on and so forth. Very comfortable, very respected position. In this country, even if you go to the Prime Minister of India and say you're a professor at IIM Ahmedabad, people respect you for that, right? And done PhD at Cambridge and MIT and Harvard, and people respect you for that. So it was very, very comfortable, well-paying for whatever you need, right? Money has not been a motivation for me for some strange reason. It's always been knowledge, learning, teaching, meeting with people. That's a bigger attraction and pull for me.
Right.
So you need sufficient amount of money. I'm not saying it's not important in life, but that's not my calling. I have a different calling. So always significant disruptive decisions get made at times when it comes to stage of yes or no. Now is the time, either you get this yes or you say no.
So I want to know that thought behind this decision, this is the time for me to switch to politics. What was that, nahi, ab ye karna hai?
I think it was just a calling. It was just to do something bigger. It was to relate with more people. I have a philosophy, and I don't know whether it's going to sound ambitious at the moment, but this underpins my political life and underpins my life as such. Politics is a part of it. It's not my whole life, but it underpins my whole life, right? And that is that if you think two people are family, God gives you strength for two people. If you think 200 are your family, and you have to be responsible for them, you have to take care of them, God will give you strength for 200. And if you think 2 million or 200 million are your family, then God will give you strength for 200 million. That's my calling for politics. And one person who has influenced me deeply in politics, apart from my boss, Akhilesh, who I've followed every day and learned the nitty-gritties, but somebody who has influenced me deeply at a philosophical level was Gandhi. I just loved that man. And not for what he said, what he did, no. The thought process, the political experimentation that Gandhi did, in an age when this country was, still a gulam, to put it crudely, let me say that, right? And the political experiment that he did, the thought process that he came up with, different from whatever else was going on in the political spectrum across the world, anything that had ever been experimented before. So it was a disruptive innovation in the political philosophy, political methodology, political process of that age, which worked fantastically well.
Right.
So I'm not saying that the same thing will work again, necessarily. Maybe not, because the context changes. Every experiment, every hypothesis, every innovation is a response to the context. The context changes, the innovation will change, right? So, but the ability to articulate an experiment, innovate on that, try it, test it, refine it, go front with it, go back on it, say we'll do that, then say no, I'm going to stop it. I made a mistake. Let me try again. Then refine that mistake publicly, face that public humiliation, and still, keep going at it in a way that nobody's ever done before. I think fantastic. My hat's off to that person. So I think he was a brilliant political strategist, and I have deep respect for him at that level. But more as a management process than anything else. Yeah.
So
that's what I've learned from him.
Right.
That's what I would like to, try and
There are
experiment with.
two questions that are like popping up right now,
Go
but
ahead.
I don't know which one to say first, but I'll go ahead with
Yeah.
it. So, what was you know a lot of corporate background because of IIM,
Yeah.
and then you are in political as well.
Yeah.
For youngsters, what do you think? Do we need more politicians or do we need more entrepreneurs?
Well, in a country of 1.4 billion people, we need both.
Okay.
And we know we need both who are brilliant at what they do.
Okay.
So if you ask me, what would I say? And there are lots of people who come to me from all sorts of backgrounds. Somebody, I will not name somebody. Somebody came to me from IIM, I has a background in IIM Bangalore. Wife also from IIM Bangalore. Went to Harvard and then did a corporate job, resigned. Now it came to politics and many such other cases. I always tell them one thing: excel in whatever you're doing in your life. Whatever is your chosen field, you are a barrister, you're a lawyer, you're a professor, you're a scientist, you're a chartered accountant, you're a teacher, you're an entrepreneur, you're a businessman, you're a bureaucrat, whatever is your calling, doctor, excel in that, have your achievement in that, and then come to politics. Because politics needs better people. The biggest problem with politics across the world, and it's not a moralistic or a judgmental statement, and please, so that I'm not quoted wrong on this, but the biggest problem is that most capable and most competent people are not coming to politics for the simple reason that political system is not able to provide a platform to attract them. It's not diversified and varied enough to attract the best talent from all the fields. So if you can speak to me, the best doctor, the best economist, the best logistics person, the best lawyers, they should all come to politics. You've done your bit, now come and contribute to the country.
But there's very handful of politicians who are educated, who come from diverse backgrounds.
Yeah.
But mostly they come from really, humble backgrounds. They are not that qualified enough, if I'm putting it right. But
Right.
Educational wise, degree wise, I mean, like that. Yeah.
Right. So when you say humble background means in terms of education rather than economy?
Both.
Both. Okay. See, coming from a humble background economically is no problem at all for politics. In fact, I think that's better if you're coming from that background because you also know that side of life.
But they are the ones who might not be getting into education also.
That's right.
Yeah.
The dysfunctionality comes in when that poor background in terms of economy means poor background in terms of education and becoming, learned about something.
Right.
Then that's a dysfunctionality. There are obviously many brilliant people who come from a rather, not so prosperous backgrounds in terms of economy, but who've done fantastically well in terms of their learning, in terms of their capabilities, in terms of their skill sets. And they acquire those skill sets, they work hard, they pay a huge price in terms of effort and in terms of their intensity, what they put in, the passion that they bring, and then they come to politics and they're brilliant. I would love more of them to come here, right? The problem comes, when you say education is what? It brings us back to the question that Macaulay raised in 1831 speech, what is education? And he went on, given his capitalistic and imperialistic mindset, we might agree, we might disagree with certain parts, or agree with certain parts, right? That's a separate story. But what is education? At a very, very basic level for me, at the most fundamental level, education is learning to behave in a manner in which we do not behave. And not just behavior as a manifestation of what we do, but also in which we perform, our jobs, our value systems, our moral standards, our sincerity, our passion that we bring to a job, right? That is very, very important.
Wow.
I'm always fond of saying that if I am signing a paper which says Professor Abhishek Mishra, और अगर उसकी मैं इज्जत नहीं करता, दूसरा कोई नहीं इज्जत करेगा. There cannot be an error. Absolutely no error. All I's have to be dotted, all T's have to be crossed, all punctuation marks have to be perfect, the borders have to be perfect, it has to fit in. If it's going to the next page, just 2 lines cannot go, the next paragraph has to move. So we need to add something, we might add a line after subject, we might add a day as well, we might add a date as well, but it has to fit in. When somebody holds it on a piece of paper, it cannot be printed on normal paper. It has to be thicker paper. It has to be beautiful paper. When somebody holds it and sees Abhishek Mishra has signed it, he has to feel that confidence that if Abhishek has seen it, it's okay. I don't need to see it. That's the level you have to put into your job. Only then you earn that respect.
Right.
Anything I will do to that level. Otherwise, I will not do it. Is it good? Yes. Is it bad? Yes. Good because it works for you. Bad because everything takes too much time. Then the philosophy that I always said comes to your play is that don't make best the enemy of good or the enemy of better.
Sure.
Not everything requires your best show. Right?
Yeah.
If you're signing, a greeting letter for sending for New Year's Eve, that's fine. You could just have a look and say, yeah, that's fine. If you're signing an official order that's going to impact, lives of Uttar Pradesh, you have to be extremely careful that not a comma is misplaced because courts will then go and interpret it as law. So you have to understand how much effort you spend in what activity. Don't get that wrong.
Right.
Don't get fussy over, people say that get fussy over your, whether shoes polished right or not. Yes, right. Because shoes say so much about a man and a woman. But still, after a certain stage, just cross that bridge and, go to where you have to go. You can't keep polishing your shoes and miss the event that you were putting the shoes on for.
Right.
So that's, which I think is very, very important. Did that answer your question?
It did.
It did, yeah?
It did.
Okay.
And now, please take us to the triumph of your political journey.
Triumph and failures.
No, I would really want you to share the first time you gave your name in and then...
Well, yeah. So my leader, Akhilesh, was very kind and he gave me tickets to contest from Lucknow North. It was a seat that... not just the party, but the socialist movement as such, under different names, under different party names, ever since independence, we had never ever won that seat. Never ever. And the sitting leader from that seat was a multiple times winner. He was a lifer on that seat, a very, very tall personality who even later went on to become and occupy very prominent positions in this country of political office. And I was contesting against that name. He had spent his entire life in that constituency. He was born there. I was entering that constituency for the first time. I live outside the constituency. He had grown from the grassroots political system. I was an IAS officer's son, educated in the US and the UK, worked in America, taught at IIM Ahmedabad. So I was coming from a different context. So the ability of people to connect with you, the approach, what you would understand of them, and the political system was deeply divided and unfortunately continues to be so on caste lines and language lines and place of origin lines or place of marriage lines or where your daughter is married or where your daughter-in-law comes from. And so much. So, all that influences society as such.
Yeah.
And all those factors, you don't really understand. I didn't understand. Even today, I don't understand caste. To be honest, I understand. I've now been in politics for many years to understand some parts of that equation, but I still don't understand caste and I don't even care about that, to be honest with you. But all these are forces playing in the field, right? And you go out and say there's gravity working here and you say, I'm going to ignore gravity, you're going to fall to your face. So whatever forces are playing the society, you have to be cognizant of those forces. Obviously, how you address those forces, being cognizant of a force doesn't necessarily mean you address the force or you respond to the force in the same manner that everybody else is responding to. Right? So that is where I started making a difference. I started creating difference. One thing that I went to people with, I said, the thing was, those leaders thought that they don't need to go to the people and they will win by the virtue of, I being a nobody and a novice in politics and they being established there for many years there, right? Decades almost. I went to every house, every colony, every gully, every mohalla on foot, me and my wife. And we just campaigned and we conversed and we said, look, this is what I will do for you. For the first time in Uttar Pradesh's history, I created a manifesto for a Vidhan Sabha. Manifestos are created by the party for the state level, but I said I create a manifesto for my Vidhan Sabha and I said, you elect me, this is what I will do. If I don't do this, you can hold me to task for that. And secondly, I said, you compare my profile, what I have done, what I have achieved on my academic strength, not because who my father was or who my whatever was or how much money I had or not have, but on my academic strength, what I've achieved as an individual. And on those lines, you compare me and you compare the other candidate and you vote for the better candidate. Even then I said, if you find a better candidate, you vote for that candidate.
Right.
And probably, I started giving speeches, choti, molle, and the people just, supported. And I'm extremely fortunate, I think it was the honor of my life to represent that constituency, Lucknow North. And the best thing that happened to my life was that. And I still feel very, very deeply emotionally connected to people and everybody there. They gave me an opportunity to find a even higher calling. Till that, it was all a subjective idea in my head, right? There was no manifestation of that idea.
Right.
That was the manifestation of what I wanted to do. That idea that 200,000 people can be part of your family and you could take care of their pains and pressures for that, at least smoothen them a little bit, right? Maybe you're not remove every crease from their life, but maybe you can iron out one or two at least, right? If they come to you for that, right? That was the first manifestation that gave me confidence in my ability to do something much larger for others than just for myself. Everybody does for oneself, right? But the idea and ability that I had in my heart and my mind, now I know I can do that.
Yeah.
Right. And you need one confirmation for that. And that was what I got. It was the biggest honor of my life to represent that constituency, those people. I still love them from the core of my heart.
Won the election.
Yes. So we won the election and we formed the government. My boss, Akhilesh, became the Honorable Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh. And he became a Chief Minister. So I also got an opportunity to become the Minister. And he was kind enough. He kept me with himself. The department I got was protocol. So I was spent 10 hours every day with the Honorable Chief Minister. I learned so much. I was sitting through in meetings of Forest Department, of Fire Department, of PWD Department, being by the virtue of being attached to the Honorable Chief Minister. And my learning just boomed. It just, expanded phenomenally in the first 2 or 3 months that I was in that role. Because all departments would come to the Chief Minister and say, this is what we're doing, this is what we want to do, this is what we propose to do. And then he would say, no, I think you should do this as well and that as well. So I got etched in and hooked into the vision of what he was visualizing Uttar Pradesh to be. And he has a long political career. He was a mature, accomplished politician, well-educated, well-read, well-traveled, educated abroad, technical degrees, engineering by profession, masters in Australia. So he knew the world around what he was talking about, right? And how do you translate that and still relate it to the last man? That ability, I think, a politician has, which is fantastic. That you take up a policy at the top level and you can bring it to a person's individual household across the state or across the country. I think that's a fantastic skill. So I learned to translate how you conceptualize something, how you articulate something, how you collect resources, how you prioritize on resource allocation process, something that every leader, every organization needs, which you learn brilliantly well in this slide. I learned that skill, and then how you implement that idea.
So what was your most rewarding project that you loved? You were like, wow, this is an achievement during your tenure.
There were lots and lots of them.
Just one of them.
But I think the biggest thing, if you hold a gun to my head on that, and I can only tell you one, then this is the one I'm going to choose. The work that I did for my constituency. So there were bridges that needed to be built. There were roads that needed repair. There were, everything. Right from substations to toilets, to housing, to bridges, to electric power plants, to restoration, to lighting up the university, to restoring the old Lucknow monuments. The Ghantaghar would have fallen apart. Literally, it was like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, which would have fallen down. So we set that straight. 8 months of scaffolding there. We got a clock from Singapore to come and set that right. We restored the Satkhanda, Sheesh Mahal Talab, which was, nobody realized there was a talab. It was above the Malwa and the Kuda was, I would say 15 feet above ground level. When we started digging, we dug it for almost 80 feet. And a beautiful Bauli and a beautiful talab came out of it. So that was, doing work in the constituency for the people, I think that was the biggest satisfaction that I did. And professional side, being a minister, that's being an MLA side. And being on minister's side, I would say launching the skill development mission of Uttar Pradesh.
Nice.
We did that. We did it with all honesty. We did it with full intellectual and financial honesty. We implemented that with a lot of passion. We interacted with lots of top corporates. We reached out to Ramadurai Saab, who was the TCS founding head. I spoke to him. We brought him to Uttar Pradesh. He met the Honorable Chief Minister. I got the mandate to be the first minister for that department. And, we created a fantastic system. And within 2 years of its implementation, UNESCO in Paris headquarters called us and says that you were the best state in Uttar Pradesh, in India, for implementing skill development. I still have that award. I came back and gifted that to the Honorable Chief Minister, and I still have a copy of that award in my library. You will see, and I still prize that the most. That was recognition of what we started, implemented. How is it doing now? It pains me, but I will not go further because that will become political.
So, आपका कोई favorite local food?
Oh, Lucknow. Lucknow is absolutely the best place on earth for the food that Lucknow does, right? So, yeah, Lucknow ki chaat is fantastic. Lucknow ki mithai, that's something which is my first love again.
Your favorite mithai kaun?
Oh, lots of them. I can't, even if you put a gun to my head, I'll not tell you what, because there's just far too many. Lucknow is just too good for food. It's like amazing for food. My friends who eat non-veg food, whenever they come to Lucknow, they, binge on the non-vegetarian food. But being a vegetarian, I still, can tell you even the butter naan in Lucknow, or the malai paneer in Lucknow, or the malai pan, the mithai in Lucknow, fantastic. The Chanakya ki barfi or the kulfi is unbelievable. Moti choor ke laddu rids ke.
चाणक्य को बहुत अच्छी publicity में था.
That's why I know, and there are many more. Rids, chappan bhog, but we have our parampara se ye mangana hai, Nilkant se ye mangana hai, chappan bhog se ye mangana hai. So we have our favorites from these different places.
Right.
But we love the food in Lucknow. Oh, it's a foodie's delight. Anybody who's watching, if you want to come and enjoy food, vegetarian and non-vegetarian as well, I've been told, Lucknow.
Yeah.
In Lucknow, we could just market it as a destination for everything. There's so much in this city. The tehzeeb, the nazakat, the nafasat, jo mohabbatein Lucknow mein hai, maine kahin nahi dekhi.
That's true.
Yeah. I just love the city. It's beautiful.
यूपी में आपकी कोई फेवरेट जगह जहाँ आप जाना बहुत पसंद करते हैं?
Oh, I love Banaras.
बनारस.
I love. एक तो विश्वनाथ जी की वजह से I love that. I think I have a very deep connect. कुछ है मेरा वहाँ पे जो मुझे खाना भी अच्छा, but I'm not so much of a foodie in Banaras. I'll get the lassi in the in Banaras, but otherwise no, not really. Not really. But Banaras as a city, just going on a boat around the Ganga in front of the Ghats, I think that's a therapeutic experience. And Baba Vishwanath is a different level, अलग ही शक्ति है, वो अलग ही ताकत है. उनका जितना दर्शन आदमी कर सके, I think that's a huge privilege. So Lucknow, I love, apart from Lucknow, I love Varanasi. I love Bundelkhand a lot.
Okay.
Bundelkhand, I love, it's beautiful, it's not touristy, it's fantastic there. And my home is Purvanchal.
Okay.
So I belong to Azamgarh. It's a border village between Azamgarh and Jaunpur. So I think that's also the fascination with Varanasi, because everybody goes to Varanasi for everything. You have shopping, you go to Varanasi. Your medicine requirement, you go to Varanasi. You need to see a doctor, you go to Varanasi. Your daughter is getting married, you go to Varanasi. Everything is Varanasi. For flight, you go to Varanasi. For train, you go to Varanasi. So Varanasi has that deep connect. Purvanchal, obviously, it's my home. It's where I belong to. It's my, कहता है अपनी मिट्टी है, अपनी खुशबू है उस मिट्टी की. तो वो सड़कों पे है. उसको घर तो के लिए तो कुछ कहने की जरूरत नहीं होती, वो घर है. But other than that, I think I love Lucknow and I love Varanasi.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed
to learn something. Something क्या? इतना सारा आपसे.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
It was very refreshing.
Thank you.
To meet a person like you who comes from such a good educational background. I hope you loved.
I loved it. Dasri, and wish you all the very best. I'm sure you do very well at whatever you choose to do. You've chosen this. I'm sure you'll be the best in the field, in the trade, the world over, not just this country. Good luck.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.